All right, I'm in the teacher's lounge, and Bee Lunch is going to start in a minute. We'll see how loud it gets. All right, so make sure your calculator, you need to go to mode, and you need to make sure it's in degrees. Okay, when you see cos 24, you're supposed to put in that in your calculator. And what you're going to get out is a decimal that looks like that. You push the tan button on your calculator, you put in the angle, and you should get something like, that's a 4. I'll do that again. 4.75. Okay. If you're looking for the angle, you're doing second cos, and then you're putting in the number, or when we have a fraction, we'll put in the fraction. But that angle is 52 degrees. I'm going to put in second sin, in case you forgot, which is sin to the negative 1, 0.6253, and you get angle 39. Remember, angles are whole numbers, sides are decimals. This says to the nearest hundredth, but okay, so on this one, we're not actually doing the total because we're talking about angle Q. So this is the opposite, this is the adjacent, and this is the hypotenuse. So the sine of Q, we're going to make a ratio or a fraction that's going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 8/17 if you're a simplifier. And then if you put second sin, 8/17, you're going to get 28 degrees. So cosine of Q is going to be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is 15/17, and that's going to be cos 15/17, which, surprise, it's going to be 28 degrees because it's the same angle Q. All three of these should be the same. So tangent is 32 opposite over adjacent, which is 8/15. And if you do second tan, 8/15, or 32/60. So they all come out the same, which would be what we would expect because those are all the angle Q. All three different ways to find angle Q. All three work, give you the same thing, which should mean that it's all good. Okay. So I'm looking for angle A, opposite, adjacent, which means tan. Since I'm looking for an angle, it's going to be second tan, 5/6. And that is going to be equal to 40 degrees. Okay, now I have angle opposite, hypotenuse. So that's going to be sine 44 equals x/8. I'm going to cross multiply, and this side x is equal to about 5.557. The last one, I'm looking for angle C, opposite, hypotenuse. So I'm going to use sin again. I'm looking for an angle, so it's second sine, 13/17, and that is equal to 50 degrees. All right, so remember when we're doing word problems, okay, it got really loud. Everything's going to look like a right angle.
Okay, so we need
So we have this, we have a person. So here's my flagpole. Here's my person. And my person is eye level's 5 feet. So I need to make sure that I have on extra 5 feet. The angle of elevation is 35. I'm looking for the flagpole. So if I want to find the flagpole, oh, here we go. I was like, I'm missing something. So that's 30. So I need to remember that. I need to add 5 on when I'm done. So opposite, adjacent, tan, 35 equals x over 30. I'm going to cross multiply. I'm going to multiply 30 times tan 35. And that's going to be 26. So I was copying my piece of paper and now I'm not sure that I did this right. Oh, so on my calculator. Okay. Tan 35 times 30.
Yes.
Okay, so I got 21.006, and I need to add 5 for the person. And I'm rounding to the nearest foot. So I'm gonna get 26 feet. All right, another triangle. This is such a funny problem. Okay, here's Miss Geometry with her hands up in the air. Here's this bill that's a $100 bill that's floating around. And she is 6. 8. Okay. You're over here. And the angle of elevation of your eyes is 40. You're 5.2. So really that's a bad picture. You should be like this. Okay, so here's the deal. You need to subtract your height from Miss Geometry's height because the triangle is really 5.2 feet off the ground. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 6.8 minus 5.2. It's going to be 1.6. So I'm going to change colors. Opposite is 1.6. Here's my angle. I'm looking for my adjacent. That's going to be tan 40 equals 1.6 over x. I'm going to end up dividing 1.6 divided by tan 40. And your distance from Miss Geometry is 2.15 feet. Okay, the next one has a lot of work, but it's all relatively easy. So the first thing I did for x was I did 64 plus 90 equals 154. I subtracted that from 180 and I got 26. So x is 26 degrees. Then I did y because 90 minus 26 equals y, which is 64. I'll be interested to know if you can hear me when we do this. All right, so to find W is the hypotenuse. Change colors again. This is the hypotenuse. I'll use 64 as my angle, and 12 is my opposite. So for W, sine 64 equals 12 over W, and W is equal to 13.35. I did the same thing for V. Y is also 64. That's the hypotenuse. This is adjacent. So cosine 64 equals 12 over V, which means V is equal to 27.37. And then finally I use the big triangle, where Z is the hypotenuse. And I went ahead and used 64 again, which means that V is my opposite. So I did sine 64 equals V, which I already have, over Z, which I don't have. And that means Z is equal to 30.45. And I'm open to correction. Okay, 12. Here's my bird flying. So the angle of elevation. Here's my bird. They tend to look like airplanes. But here you go. So he's gone 87 yards. We want to know how far he traveled horizontal and how far he is up vertical. So I called this Y and this X. So I called this X and this Y. So opposite, adjacent, hypotenuse. So sine of 32 equals y over 87, and cosine of 32 equals x over 87. So the horizontal distance is 46.10 yards. And vertical is 73.78 yards.
Are those football boys being better in their fun?
This is hilarious. So how fast I can get through this. Alright. The boat's gone 4.5 miles. 45-degree angle. Looking for how far from shore. So that's going to be sine 45 equals x over 4.5. And the distance he is from shore is 3.18 miles. Parachute. Reunion Tower. Skydiver. No, not that. Skydiver. There's my skydiver. farm 28.3, 23 degrees. Angle of depression, which remember is right here also. We're looking for how high off the ground. So opposite, adjacent, tan 23 equals x over 28.3. So he is 12 miles up in the air. That sounds really high and probably not right, but there you go. Okay, Bobcat. Up in a tree. Let's make a big kitty face. Okay, 10-foot tree. Bob is over here looking at his cat. 53 degrees. How far is he from the tree? Which seems like the least important question, but there you go. So we have opposite, adjacent, tan 53 equals 10 over x. He is 7.54 feet from the tree. We'll see how this turned out.